Welcome back. I'm super glad you're here and I'm very excited because it's time for the July book wrap up and I read a lot this month, so I cannot wait to share with you what I read. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just dive right in. Also, I should note, sorry about the lighting. It is horrendous in here. We don't have any natural light in our room and we're redoing our bedroom right now, so it's kind of a mess, but just bear with me. As always, I have linked all of my favorite books in my Amazon storefront, and I always post what I'm reading and my ratings on the Goodreads app, so be sure to follow me there if you aren't already, and those are linked in the description. So let's just dive right in. First of all, I read Breaking Free from Body Shame by Jess Connolly. I really like Jess Connolly. I read her book, You Are the Girl for the Job, earlier this year, so I was really excited when I found out she was coming out with this one. It's all about reclaiming your body as good and speaking truth over your body and not giving into what the world says about your body and standards for beauty and things like that. All about how to care for your body and just see it as good exactly where it's at, and then taking care of it from that place. She talks about how body image is a spiritual issue, what we can do about it, and how we can actually ultimately cause a ripple effect that brings revival for women all over the world to love their bodies and see them as good because they are. So I thought it was really good. I thought it was really timely, and I really enjoyed her writing style. She also has a section at the end of each chapter where she asks questions, and I really like that. I think that's really fun to be able to process and journal at the end of a chapter so you can apply what you've learned. I thought it was really good. Next, I read a book called Love and Other Train Wrecks. I didn't even keep it. I took it back to the library as soon as I was done because I was just like, I don't know, just kind of like cheesy, I guess. So it's about this girl and this guy. They're on a train. They're both kind of having rough days. He's on his way to proclaim his love to his ex-girlfriend, and she is on her way to her dad's wedding to his new wife. And they're just having, I don't know, like bad mood, running into each other on the train, not interested in talking, kind of moody and broody, and then the train breaks down. And so the guy has this idea to get off the train. He knows like the shortcut. Apparently he's really familiar with the trains in the area, and she's just visiting. So he convinces her to get off the train, and as soon as they do, it starts moving again. So they're lost in the middle of a snowstorm and trying to find their way to where they need to go so that they can each get to where they want to be on time. In the process, they form a relationship, and it's sweet, but it was just honestly like pretty cheesy for me. And what annoyed me the most was that the author kept referencing information that you already know, like from previous chapters. So like we know that the girl's parents are separated and she's having like a rough time with that. But in almost every single chapter, she would say something to the effect of, yeah, things were different, but then, you know, it happened, the divorce. And it's like, yes, we know it happened. Let's move on. So that was kind of annoying and repetitive, but besides that, it was okay. I give it 3 stars though. Next is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. Oh my goodness. 5 stars right away, 5 stars. This might be my new favorite book ever. I've been hearing the hype about Colleen Hoover for quite some time, so I had to see what it was all about, and everyone was so right. I'm glad that I read this one first because I think it's my favorite of hers that I've read so far. But basically it's about this girl named Fallon. She's an actress. Her dad is a famous actor as well, but Fallon was in a fire, so she's burned on a lot of her body, and it destroyed her acting career and her relationship with her father. He's really mean to her. He's just always discouraging her and like talking down to her and telling her like to give up basically on her dream of acting. And so one day her dad's just letting her have it in a cafe, and this guy named Ben hears, and so he comes over to the booth and pretends to be her boyfriend and defends her. And so it's really sweet. They end up striking up a conversation and hanging out the rest of the day, and they come up with this deal to help each other out. She wants to continue pursuing acting, and he is an author and he wants to write a book. So they decide that they're going to challenge each other and give each other homework, and then they're going to meet each other at the same time and same place on every year on November 9th. And so it's their story of every year, them meeting up and everything that happens in between, which sounds crazy, like skipping from year to year for like 5 years. But so much happens, and it's so good and so crazy. Colleen Hoover is known for her like really sweet love stories, but also like really crazy deep twists and turns. It's wild how they're all like, their stories are interconnected and mind-blowing. But I loved this book. Highly recommend. Next, I read Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. This book is incredible. It's a personal development book Basically, it's just breaking down her philosophy of everything is figure outable. There's always another option. There's always another step you can take. And it's just really practical, which I loved. Again, it was super timely for me, I feel, because it talks about overcoming fear, overcoming rejection. What's the next best step you can take? And I absolutely love that she also has an application section at the end of every chapter. So it's a space where she asks you a question and then you journal through it. And it really helped me like overcome a lot of roadblocks that I was having in my own life and my business and relationships. And I thought it was really cool. This is one I definitely want to buy and read again because I got it from the library, but I would highly, highly recommend it whether you need some help to grow in your business or your relationships or any kind of goals or dreams you have in your life. This is the book for you. Next is Opposite of Always. I have to say I was really disappointed in this book. I almost did not even finish it. I asked on Instagram and polled you guys whether I should finish it or not, and I ended up hanging in there just to see if it would get better, and to be honest, it didn't. I was not impressed. I give it 2 stars. I know that's a little harsh, but the thing is, okay, the book is about this boy named Jack. He meets this girl at a party. They end up hitting it off, and he's like instantly attracted to her, and he finds out that she's sick. And so the whole story is about him, like it's like his coming of age story. He's the hero, but the plot line is that she is sick. But it's weird because we never find a whole lot out about this main girl character, except that she's sick and he's trying to save her the whole time. So what happens is he is trying to save her and then she ends up dying. And when she dies, he wakes up and he's back at the beginning, meeting her at the party for the first time. It happens several times, and every time he has to make the right decision to save her, but every time he makes a different decision, it also impacts his family and his friends and the outcome of all these other situations. So by the end, I mean, I don't know, I just wasn't impressed. Like there was nothing special by the end. There was no real wrap up. It was just kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? Not a fave. After that, I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I've heard a lot about this book, so I could not wait to read it, and it definitely delivered. So, okay, I will preface this by saying I typically read young adult fiction because it's cleaner, and I don't know. I'm conflicted because young adult is written like very young and I don't know, immature at times, I guess. And so I love reading adult fiction, but then there's like the sexual content. So I will say this book does have a bit more sexual content, but it's still a really good storyline. I just looked past that but because I love Colleen Hoover's writing, and this book was super good. Basically, what happens is Tate moves in with her brother and meets her brother's friend, Miles. So the story is brother's best friend, classic trope, very good, very sweet. And basically she meets Miles. At first she's not really into him, but it turns out there is some chemistry there. But the thing is, Miles has some pain that he's been holding on to from his past that keeps him from being able to fall in love. He like refuses to ever have love in his life again, and he will not talk about it no matter what. He makes this deal that they can like basically be friends with benefits, I guess, if she doesn't ask about his past and doesn't ever hope for a future. So it's written in alternating points of view, but it's past and present perspective. So when it's Tate's perspective, it's current, and then when it's Miles, it's 6 years before, and you're finding out the things that happened with his first love that totally broke his heart and closed him off to love. It's super sad. But Colleen Hoover, I love that she always has these dark twists and turns, but it always ends like on a good resolved note. And so this book, although it was really sad and hard to read at times, was so, so good and so sweet at the end. I love this book. Highly recommend. 5 stars. All right, after that was another Colleen Hoover book. It Ends With Us. I heard that they're making this book a movie, and so I wanted to read it, and I'm really excited about it. Wow, very good. Again, Colleen Hoover with the twists and turns and the intertwined stories. This one is so, so good. It's written from one perspective. It's a girl named Lily, and she's moved to Boston, and she meets this guy named Ryle. And they don't hit it off at first. It's kind of enemies to lovers. But when they do reconnect and start forming a relationship, what happens is absolutely crazy. So you're reading about Lily and Ryle's developing relationship in the present tense, but at the same time, Lily is going through these boxes after her dad died, and she finds these journals from when she was younger and was writing about her first love. So you're kind of reading through her journal entries about what was happening in the past, but also you see what's happening in the future and how she's falling in love and it's falling apart. And then, of course, plot twist, her first love shows up in the scene, and it is just so crazy. It's really sad at parts, which I feel like, again, with all of Colleen Hoover, there's some really like real life deep stuff that she writes about, but it has such a way of like just capturing the sweetness of love in the process, and again, ending on a really good note. And I love this book. Okay, so all throughout the month, I was also kind of reading this book, The Montessori Toddler. Heard a lot about this for quite a while, and I've been wanting to read it. And the great thing about it is it's more of like a guide. And so it has all kinds of like activities and all kinds of things. It's a really insightful book. I really liked learning about it. I will say I took it with a grain of salt. If you're not familiar, Montessori is a parenting method that's all about empowering your child to be independent and curious and helping them to, I guess, embrace their feelings, but also teaching them how to act for themselves, make their own decisions, and become responsible adults, I guess. So it's really interesting and fascinating. So something I really liked about this book is that she gives you lots of examples that are really easy to apply right away. So like kind of like a script of things to say instead of like, no, don't do this, no, don't do that. It's like, oh, I see that you're feeling upset. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but we're not allowed to hit. I'm not going to allow you to do this. I really like this book because it helps you to reframe things like tantrums, attitudes, picky eating, all the phases and stages developmentally that toddlers go through. And it's just really helpful for just giving you their perspective, helping you understand what's going on developmentally in their mind and their body, and how you can relate to them and teach them how to communicate well about their feelings and about choices that they're making, and really just empower them to be independent and responsible and curious and kind and all of those things. So I really liked this book. I thought it was really interesting. There's lots of activities that I loved because for me, I want to kind of limit screen time. I'm not necessarily against it. We let Jude watch TV, but for the most part, I love to do activities that will really help him developmentally. And this book has tons and tons and tons of ideas. So I would definitely recommend just even looking through this one and finding some things that might apply to you or help you with your little one. And finally, I read The Woman in the Window, which was just wild. This is kind of like a suspense thriller fiction, and I've seen it everywhere, so I could not wait to read it for myself and see what the hype was all about. It was definitely good. I'd give it like 4 stars. It's about this woman who lives alone in an apartment, and she's always like looking out the window and watching other people's lives because she has agoraphobia, which means she's afraid of the open space. She cannot go outside. She's confined in her home. All she does is sit at home and drink all day and watch her neighbors through the window. So one day she sees something really terrible happen to her neighbor, and so she calls the police and reports it. And long story short, they think she's crazy. They think she's made it all up. And so the whole book is her trying to prove that these things are really happening, but no one's listening to her. And there's some plot twists in there that you just don't expect, and it's really crazy. To be honest, it reminded me of The Girl on the Train, if you watched that movie or read that book. Really interesting, really good. It's definitely crazy, some things that happen in there, but I really liked this book and I would recommend it. So that is all the books that I read this month. It was a lot, and I know this video was kind of all over the place with the lighting and the cuts, but thank you for bearing with me while I'm getting back into this rhythm. I'm really excited to keep reading, and again, I will link everything in the description, and I will see you next month. Let me know in the meantime what other videos you might want to see. I can do maybe some of my favorites in different genres, or I don't know, even the story of my own books, because if you didn't know, I wrote 2 books of my own, which you can find on my website, which I will also link. I have a devotional, a daily guided journal about love, and another one that's called Waking Up, Living Open. It's all about my story, but truly it's about the power of our stories and the magic that happens when we embrace them and share them with others. So those are my 2 that you can find on my website, thehannahhughes.com/shop. But in the meantime, follow me along on social media. I'd love to be friends. Leave a comment. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have suggestions for other ones that I could read. I'm always looking for new ones. So let me know your thoughts on these books and any other ones I should add to my list. But in the meantime, I cannot wait to talk to you on Instagram, and I will see you soon.